Team. So up next, we've got our plank push. Now, the only reason I've got a mat here is really to drive home the point of where we need that wrist to finish. You also see I've got two different bits of kit here. I've got a plate and a kettlebell. It can be done with either. It will depend, especially on weight, your surface that you're using. So you see in front, we've got the rubber mats here. So obviously going to be a lot harder. There's a lot more friction there, gripping on to the rubber. We've got the grass here, and although this is worn down and it's a nice fast wicket at the moment for the Pakistanis and Australians, this is obviously going to be different if you've got longer grass as well, as in the turf, longer turf, I should say. So just keep that in mind. If you are bouncing between gyms, then you may need to just do your best to kind of work with what you've got. Means that you may not be using the exact same weight every time. With this exercise, because it is specifically a very targeted oblique sling exercise, we don't need a lot of weight. So this is not about you pushing as much as possible, depending on how strong your shoulders are. This is about you maintaining integrity, especially through those hips, as best as possible. Now, we're only gifted, especially with how wide this turf is. I'm not going to be able to do a front-on view, which will really let you see how those hips move. But what we're trying to do is when we're set up in that plank position, as we go through the movement, we're not letting those hips go either side. So it's always good to have a partner with you because they can say, pull the hips left or right if you start to move away from center. But that's what we're really trying to think of. We're trying to think of keeping a nice plumb line down the center and we're not deviating either side. So if we get into it with the kettlebell, and again, the reason why I have this mat here, when I use a mat or anything, what I like to do is set those wrists up right on the edge because that's going to let you know how far you need to come back. From there, jumping into that plank position, you can shoot those hips feet a fraction wider. We are going to be pushing up as far as we can, keeping the control, and then back down. So as I push, I'm trying to avoid letting those hips move side to side, pop up. We want to stay locked on, down, push high, pull back in. You'll probably hear the struggle in my voice at the moment. It's a tough exercise. That's only a 6 kilo kettlebell. Likewise, you can use a plate, guys. So if you've got the bumpers, the fractionals, you can just chuck those fingers between, push out as far as you can, come back in. Now, nothing about this exercise, team, is quick. The slower, the better. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you're moving quickly, you're not giving yourself enough time to really challenge the position as you come out in front. Because as we move further away from that center of gravity, that midline point, it is going to get tougher. So moving slow is key here. If the weight is too light, bump up. But it's not about weight. The weight is more or less just to provide a little bit of feedback through the shoulder to make it not just a plank and reach. But if you don't have a weight or you've only got rubber mats and you can't really push anything on there, plank and reach is fine as well. All it might be is gliding that hand, that pinky finger, along the mat. That's what it could be there. But the most important key points there, team, making sure when we set up, we've got that mat, the wrist starts in line with the mat, we push as far forward as possible, always bring it back. Generally without that point, that reference point, we sometimes start to maybe shorten the range a little bit too much, so we're not coming all the way back in. Make sure we get that full range, and we move nice and slow through the movement in order to really challenge the oblique sling.